one.
So imagine you're a high school athlete and you've been training for years on a 100-meter dash, per se, or training in band to get first chair. And you spend years doing that, and then someone comes in and takes that spot from you. And the feeling that you have can vary from anger to sadness, but I want you to keep that in mind. So I'm going to be talking about transgender women playing in women's sports today. And so for you guys that don't know, a transgender woman is defined as a man transitioning into a woman. And so today I'm going to be talking about that and how the two perspectives on that people think that that transgender women shouldn't play in women's sports, and that can I restart?
Take a breath and keep going.
The two perspectives of transgender women being allowed to play in sports and how they shouldn't play in sports. And so my first perspective, or the two perspectives, are inclusivity and safety and competitive fairness. And then the claims with inclusivity is the violation of the 14th Amendment and the violation of the Title IX Education Act and disparities within women and men's sports. And then my second perspective is safety and competitive fairness, and the claims are higher testosterone, the gap between women and men, and safety concerns. So my first perspective on inclusivity is the violation of the 14th Amendment. In an article titled U.S. Backs Idaho Law Limiting Sports Participation by Transgender by Mark Walsh in Education Weekly says the Equal Protection Clause cannot force transgender women to play in their biological gender-specific sport. So basically, it's saying, according to the 14th Amendment, that we can't force a transgender woman to play in their biological sport, so like men. So if a man transition into a woman, we can't force them to play in men's sports. And basically, the 14th Amendment is in the Constitution. The Constitution founds what this country is made on, so we can't force people to go against the Constitution because of our founding. And then my second claim is the Title IX Education Act of 1972. And this basically says that, in an article in the New York Times titled "Inclusion of Transgender Student Athletes Violates Title IX," Trump administration says, it says that according to the Title IX Act, you can't force people in federally funded programs, or you can't have sex discrimination in federally funded programs. So say in high school, going back to that point, that in our school, we can't discriminate someone from their gender because our school is funded by the federal program. And then my last claim is going to be disparities. And in the article in the New York Times titled "Who Should Compete in Women's Sports? There are two inconceivable positions." It says that we already have disparities in sports. We all know the track star Usain Bolt and how he's the fastest person and no one can beat him, but no one sees that is unfair. And so we can't apply that to transgender women playing in women's sports because they have a better advantage. So we can't apply that to that. And then my second perspective is safety and competitive fairness. And then my first claim is going to be higher testosterone levels. And so in an article in the Sports Medicine titled "Transgender Women in the Female Category of Sports, Perspectives of Testosterone Suppression and Performance," it says in the article that over 1 year of testosterone suppression, that transgender women lose about 5% of muscle mass, which is, women already have less muscle mass than men do, and so if a man transitions into a woman, they only lose about 5%, and so they already have a competitive advantage over women because they have larger muscles, all that stuff. And then my second claim is the gap between men and women. In the article, the Guardian titled "Strengths of Transgender Women Drop Slightly After Year of Treatment," research claims It says that basically a study over 10,000 men in a 100-meter dash, they have a higher or like a better time than the Olympic 100-meter champion for a woman. So basically it's saying that there's already such a big gap between men and women that it's not fair for a man to compete in women's sports or a transgender woman to compete in women's sports, because there's already such a big gap between the two genders. And then my third claim is safety. And so in an article in Law and Sport titled "The Participation of Transgender Athletes in Sports," it says that women have a higher rate of injury, so knees, like key sports like injuries like ACLs or sprained ankle or something like that. It says that women already have a higher rate of that, and so adding a person that is stronger, faster, all those things will increase that rate of injury higher. And so that to protect women, we want to try and remove them having a higher injury rate. And so for what I've covered is the two perspectives for inclusivity, the 14th Amendment, the Title IX Act of 1972, and the disparities. And then my second perspective is safety and competitive fairness, higher testosterone, gap between men and women, and safety. And then my stasis is that when we all grow up, have kids, our children can be playing sports or can be competing in other events and stuff like that. And so we're gonna have to make the decision on if we should allow men and women or a transgender woman to compete in women's sports.